So, as you can see, drinking and driving has been a problem in America for a while. This is nothing new to us. Acting out, we have been a threat to public safety for many years. We have been concerned in where we've been. There once was a doctor named Benjamin Rush. He was the first doctor in America to say, you know what, alcoholism is a disease, and let me tell you how we should treat it. We should treat this disease, remove the alcohol from the drug alcohol, put them with a group of other people who ain't drinking no more. Once they get sober, let them help other people get sober. Do it a day at a time. You with me? People, places, and things, and spend the life helping people. And he noticed way back when that this is the most effective method to treat alcoholics. Now, what does that sound like? Any AAers in here?
Bill Wilson.
Sounds a lot like AA Bill Wilson, don't it? Dr. Russ, he signed the Declaration of Independence. So, this is nothing new. We've had mutual aid groups around for quite a while. Washingtonian was one of the earlier groups. In 1843, they were 600,000 strong. Members, pledged members. Abraham Lincoln was one of their speakers at one of their meetings. They were mainly a motivational speaker type meeting. If any of y'all are familiar with motivational interviews, the technique they use, you know, to reach addicts and whatnot, well, they were doing it back in the 1840s. You know, nothing we do today that works outside of dedication. It's been around for a long time. McShin, I'm not sure we have anything original here. I think everything we do here is something we plucked that was positive from another organization or group. This is the cover of our book, In Front of You, Slaying the Dragon. Even back then, all these people knew, they tried to send a message that the law must recognize the legal fact, the medical, not penal, treatment reforms the drunkard. You with me? Now, most of you people that are in recovery, you know, daggone good and well, it don't hurt to get locked up from time to time, but that really ain't the solution. It's an inside job. Recovery is a solution for addiction, believe it or not. Now, locking folks up might be a solution for public safety. Some of the earlier faith-based recovery groups, Salvation Army, everybody heard of Salvation Army. They were formed by William Booth in 1865 over in Europe and came to America in 1878 or 1880, and it's been going strong ever since. Now, it's important to understand, I'll talk a little bit more about AA, but if Christian faith-based was the solution for addiction, it would have never been the invent of AA or NA or other recovery methods. So, but we want to point it out because Christian faith-based is one of the largest pathways to recovery in America. The three largest pathways to recovery in America is AA, NA, and Christian faith-based. If anybody in here got any type of recovery at all, you either came through one, two, or three of those pathways. And the length of stay typically is 5 years, just for your information. A lot of people within 5 years, they seem to get a grip on life. That's why you notice, for those of you that go to NA or AA, you notice how most of your members is under 5 years clean, and very few members have over 5 years. It's not because they all went to prison and died. It's all because they got a grip on their life, and they probably went over to church now. They don't want the chaos that comes with being newcomers and stuff. But anyway, as humanity progressed in the recovery process of addiction, psychiatry came into the picture back in the late 1800s. A guy named Sigmund Freud. Any of y'all heard of Freud? Yeah. You can get them on Chinese little things all the time. But Sigmund Freud, father of psychiatry in America, he wrote a nice article for the New England Journal of Medicine saying that cocaine was a solution for opiate addiction. It was magic. It would soothe the soul and be withdrew from the drug opiate. Just a year later, he rewrote another article for the same magazine saying, I have made a mistake. Cocaine comes from the devil himself. And it is not the cure for opiate addiction. And a lot of this information, it's all in the book, Slaying the Dragon. There's just quotes right there. Remarks on the cocaine. William Halsted, the father of American surgery, went to Yale University, graduated from Yale, the entire graduating class that he was in from Yale University experimented with drugs, and they all died a premature death, except for William Halsted. He went on to become the first professor of surgery and surgeon-in-chief at Johns Hopkins. A lot of y'all heard of Johns Hopkins. When he died at age 70, they opened up his diary. When he kept the diary, he used morphine every single day his whole life. He could never quite kick that addiction he started in the late 1870s. So I refer to Mr. Halsted, our original maintenance man, you know, when he lived, but things weren't looking good. This is an institution in Kentucky in the 1830s. The federal government got into the recovery business and they built these institutions. I cut a couple slides out from this morning's presentation, and in 1914, all drugs were legal up until then. And then they had a law, the Harrison Act, whacked legalization of drugs. And overnight we had millions of addicts hit the streets. And lots of legal battles ensued, to include the one that set us up for making it legal to have maintenance programs. But anyways, read the book, you'll learn all about it. This is what an inside of an institution looked like back then. It's a little crowded, so y'all complain about McShin being crowded. Could be worse. They tried all kind of ways to help addicts. They would gas you, and they had a technique where they take long needles and stick them through your eye, and they hit the middle of your brain. They're little partial lobotomies. And they actually worked in some cases. And it's kind of weird because today science shows that the disease lies in the brain. So I imagine if you could, you know, take out a piece of that inner brain, you could hit that craving spot. You know, get lucky, like a needle in a haystack. They use long needles and stick them through your eye and your brain. That book got all kind of cool stuff in it. You ought to buy it. You know, go online and buy them. These are some of the restraints they were using for addicts back then. So we ask you to sit still. That long ago, a lot of sit still. And you always heard about getting your own nightgown. Some of them tied in the front, some of them tied in the back. With your arm behind, you know, straight jacket. And, you know, just a lot of history here. Read the book. Great thing happened in 1935. A couple of drunks got together and they started what was known as Alcoholics Anonymous. And then NA came along, the treatment center industry came from that. And now the Recovery Community Organization has popped up. The founders of AA, Dr. Bob and Bill W., a couple of y'all heard of him, know about him. They wanted the whole world to know about AA. There was nothing ever to be anonymous about this marvelous program called AA. They even went before Congress. Had press conferences, talked to Congress, talked to press. Bill Wilson spoke in front of Congress. But at the level of press, radio and film, and later they had internet on there. They just want people to be anonymous. They didn't want a banker or big prominent figures to. They didn't want AA to rise and fall on prominent figures. They wanted everybody to be the same. They wanted our leadership to be the same. And a good example was back in the 1800s when like the Washingtonians and organizations like that, they would rise on personality. They'd have these great dynamic personalities. They could build a 1 million man strong organization, but then along comes a rich man want to hire him away, start his own program. Thus one organization would collapse and the other would build up. Like today, you'll notice some of these mega churches, they built around a particular preacher. But when the preacher goes, so goes the church. Jim Baker, remember the PTL Club, Jim Baker? The Crystal Palace just collapsed. You know, sure, the Crystal Palace, they went into bankruptcy. So a lot of organizations rise and fall on personalities. Well, they didn't want AA to be like that. And they also noticed that they didn't want no big shots within their organization either. So anonymity, the spiritual principle, is really, A, we got no big shots. B, we got no leaders. The groups lead. Other than that, we want the whole world to know. We want members to take it upon themselves to go out there and spread this message. Just In those two little areas, could you remember to add, A, we got no big shots, and B, the level of press, radio, and film, in your name. It's real simple. This is not rocket science. Everything else you ever hear about that, somebody fabricated along the line that had a resentment against somebody else doing service. That's the best thing I can come up with. Now, AA even had a lecture series. Ray McCarthy was the original public relations man for AA. He went all over the world, gave lectures on behalf of AA to groups and organizations, and explained how AA worked and what they wanted to see, where they wanted it to go. Now, Marty Mann is the first female in AA to ever do well and stay sober. She started what today is the National Council on Drugs and Alcohol, which we got a couple of posters behind him, NCADD. They still around today. Every year we're Virginia's oldest affiliate. We do a nice banquet every year to give away a national award. But it is a national organization, been around since the 40s. It's doing just fine today. Back in the old days, before there were treatment centers, these old AA guys, they were creating these sober houses, these sober farms. And people were getting reputations for helping folks get sober. Like Hazleton, before there was, y'all heard of Hazleton, big treatment center in Minnesota? Before there was a Hazleton, there was like a Hazleton house. You know, just take them and drop them off at the Hazleton shack. You know, them drunks know how to help people. See, the value of one addict, one alcoholic, helping another became without parallel and paramount back in those days. And their outcomes started back in those days are more successful than what we're doing today. We still aren't as successful today as what these people were back then. I got some more news for you about our precious steps you hear about in NA and AA. They were designed to be worked. Your first 5 steps are designed to be worked within your first 30 days of living in a sober house or treatment center. And these organizations are known to have resident priests and preachers that would do the 5th step. Because you're alcoholic, they ain't trusting nobody else. So they knew back in them days, they knew a priest or a preacher would never reveal. Ain't like today where everybody was scared priests and preachers. So back then they could keep a secret. But these steps were really designed to be worked in 30 days, 1 through 5, and then you spend the rest of your life working steps 6 through 12. FYI. Somewhere along the way, some newcomers got together and started writing books and manuals on how steps should be working, and have new people believe in that. But the truth is, be completely honest, steps 1 through 5, and if you stay completely honest, a day at a time, and work steps 6 through 12, anything that might come up can come up through 6 through 12. But that's really another lecture for another class, that if we were doing a 2-week class, we'd go more into detail on that. Today there's over 50,000, I think we're up to 65,000 NA meetings a week in the world. Y'all heard of narcotics anonymous? Anybody heard of NA? Are y'all sleeping, man? I mean, come on, y'all, it's starting to hurt my feelings. But I got to tell you, in 1982, there were 1,200 NA meetings a week in the world. Now we got, I know 65,000, this is the whole problem. And we think the best NA meeting in the world is right here in Henrico County in jail at 7 o'clock. Y'all don't know how lucky y'all got to be. Only jail meeting I've ever seen in the world where people can come in from the outside, walk right into the lobby. The meeting in the lobby of the jail. The sheriff allows the weekenders, the work release, and the trustees to come down, co-mingle with the addicts, and have a nice NA meeting. I mean, how cool is that? They got that going on in West Virginia?
No, not that I know about.
Yeah, well, now you have a
benchmark
in which to go back, find your local sheriff. Let me tell you what this sheriff in Henrico is doing, okay? The sheriffs are very competitive, you know what I mean? They don't like another sheriff to out-sheriff them. So they want to, all sheriffs want to be big sheriff in the world. Like Joe, Sheriff Joe in Arizona, everybody knows Sheriff Joe, right? Yeah. That's the benchmark for all the other sheriffs, man. All wear pink panties and brown. He makes them wear pink panties in his prison, man. I mean, it's cool. Yeah, you ought to read all about him, man. I mean, very innovative sheriff. A little side thing about the sheriff. One day they're out there. He got Tent City in Arizona. He makes, when they get crowded, they put up a tent and sleep in a tent. They feed you, they give you cold drinks. And one day the inmates were in there complaining about Tent City. Sheriff Joe went off on them. He said, you know what? Right now, we got troops in harm's way in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're dressed to the hilt in armor, long sleeve. They're in temperature just as hot as here. They're dying for our country. They're bleeding. They're fighting our wars. You don't hear them complaining. And here you guys are whining about a condition you put yourself in because you messed up. And I'm letting you lay around in t-shirts and shorts with the flaps up. There's no income around. You know, y'all need to get a grip on reality, you know. So, and I think, you know, I thought that was a wonderful point of interest, you know. And they shut up out there. Now, a wonderful thing happened in 1957. The American Medical Association officially declared alcoholism and addiction as a disease. Dr. Rush knew that back in 1775. But it finally caught up to the rest of the medical world in 57. And with that came what they called the Reimbursement Code for Services, Diagnostic Service Manual Code 4, which meant that if you were an institution that delivered medical services and adopted this practice, you could be reimbursed for delivering these services. Hello, we just put money into the mix. And a lot of doctors, they got smart. A lot of hospitals got smart. They started serving addicts and alcoholics so they could, you know, make it part of their venue of service. Now, from that came a whole lot of treatment centers. So by 1985, there was like 3,500 high-end quality treatment centers in America. When I got clean in 1982, if you wanted to go to treatment and ask for help, you could be inside the door of a quality rehab within 1 hour, guaranteed a 30-day stay minimum, maybe up to a 90-day stay, whether you had money, insurance, or work. That's how good our system of care was back in 1982. Now, the recovering community, us, back in the 40s and 50s, we championed the birth of the professional treatment. We welcomed this as a special doorway to recovery. We knew that a whole lot of people were going to die because the recovery folks, they were coming at us at warp speed. You know, there was writing newspaper articles. The Post magazine wrote some good articles on AA. The word was out about recovery in AA. So these old times, they thought, man, these doctors want to make a few bucks and deal with these whining newcomers. No. Get them 30 days to clean us up and send them to the meeting and then we can handle it. You know what I mean? So, two things happened. We shifted responsibility as an organization to somebody else to deal with our issues and problems, but we got lazy. All of a sudden, what was working for us for many years, we thought we had a better way of doing things. We thought things were going to work out good. We didn't know that by helping start the treatment center industry, that it was going to be completely and fully hijacked by what we call the acute care model, clinical model. All of a sudden, the delivery of services to newcomers just became professionalized. What was working so well had the best outcomes in history. We now basically rolled over and gave it away to people. And the main, all you really got to do to get reimbursed to help addicts now is go to school, get a degree, get a master's or a PhD or a social degree, become a certified substance abuse counselor or social worker. You can even have your own business helping addicts and alcoholics, and you can make a lot of money. And in the 80s, man, that was the heyday of treatment centers. People were making money hand over fist. Fortunately, when I went to treatment in 1982 in the Marine Corps, I went to 42 days inpatient. It was in a barracks, twice the size of this room, on base. All my counselors, fortunately, were AA members, NA members. And they made sure at night I went to meetings. So I had an immediate link to the recovery community when I was in rehab. And that's really how they intended it to go. But as years went by, they carved out the recovery community from working in the treatment centers. And they did that by way of felonizing our disease. You know, you can't be a counselor if you got a felony. You can't be a nurse or a doctor if you got a felony. It's hard for you to work in that environment if you got a felony. Yeah, you can get around it, but it's hard. It's getting more difficult. And HIPAA came along. HIPAA is an organization that makes up rules and regulations that keep your records personal. What's the most important thing an addict needs to do in order to recover? You need to tell them your disease. The worst thing you can do is keep a secret. But the very people we're going to go to get help, their number one business is to keep a secret for you. That's terrible for recovery. I got news for you. And I'm not talking about disclosing who's coming to rehab, breaking your anonymity. I'm not talking about that at all. But you know daggone good and well, our best resources for one another is our spouses, our mommies, our daddies, our friends, our workers, to freely pass information on how to help you with recovery. You need to be able to tell them your disease and not feel ashamed about it, not be stigmatized about it. All this actually helps fuel stigma and shame for an addict. We didn't know it, but that's really what happened. Now, the funny thing happened on the way to the bank for these people. In the 1980s, early 90s, an organization named HMOs came along, health maintenance organizations, and their number one job was to go to people who purchased big blocks of insurance, how to save them money. And one way, people like Philip Morris and Alcoa and IBM and Ford Motor, one way they could save money on their health insurance to their employees, cut out reimbursement for diseases, mental health diseases. That's not a disease anyways. People make that stuff up so they can have money. So these big companies were buying that. They were buying into that. So they whacked reimbursement for treatment, basically. And it was a strategic strike by HMOs, but they knew two things about addiction. They knew, A, it was a shame-based disease, and most addicts, alcoholics in the family, they're going to raise hell about getting my benefit whack. They didn't have an advocacy on it. And two, the very principle of their recovery is centered around humility and anonymity. And they knew the people would not have a desire to advocate, because they were bred to believe it was a no-no in recovery. And they were right. Overnight, we went from like 3,000-4,000 rehab to 200-300 within a couple of years. So all these millions of addicts and alcoholics that were getting served in our privately funded treatment center industries. And remember, they were absorbing the lion's share of delivering these services, so the community-based treatment were operating at a good clip. They were doing fine. Well, all of a sudden, millions of people, and keep in mind, there's 30 million people in America that need rehab, you know, by everybody's standards. So if all of a sudden they don't have access to it, where are they going to go? They're going to go to your local mental health departments who can't handle that being needed. So who can handle it? If they don't help you, who's going to help you? Criminal justice. Thus began the biggest proliferation and buildup of any nation's criminal justice system in the world. We actually eclipsed Nazi Germany. We went from 100,000 people locked up to 2 million people locked up nationwide. I mean, it's incredible how this happened. We went from our gross domestic product, our GDP, 70% of it is centered around the criminal justice system. Our GDP, what it costs us to fight these wars, is 11% of our GDP. We spend more money dealing with addicts than we do fighting wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and wherever else we fight wars in. So that's a big deal for us. Now, the recovery model. The Substance Abuse and Recovery Support Services delivered and facilitated by recovering citizens. What you see here, when you hear, you walk around with shit, you get a good comprehensive understanding who we are and what we do. We've been doing what they did back in the 40s and 50s and 30s and 200 years. We're a bunch of peers. We understand we got a situation. We want to help people, but this is the way we help them. We don't know any other way to help you other way we got help, okay? So if you come here looking for help above our capability, you're going to be disappointed. We can't help you. But you want a safe environment to not use drugs, a safe environment to tell them what you need, a safe environment to grow and flourish, centered in abstinence from drugs and alcohol. You're in a good place. We can help you. We're governed by our people. Our board of directors is governed as alcoholics. Our board of directors is not made up of community service board bureaucrats, state of Virginia bureaucrats, Department of Correction bureaucrats, people who work for insurance companies. Our board is recovering people. We don't have a funding flow that we have to have strings attached to our funding flow. We generate and raise our own money, therefore we can make up our own rules of it. Don't have to run a roll. You do a good job too, I think about it. The number one barrier to delivering the recovery model, all of our reimbursements and regulatory systems that govern addiction and treatment are based on the acute care model. We could do a lot better job if we got treated a little bit like Virginia, for example. Addiction costs Virginia $5 billion. Y'all know how many billions are in a billion? Let's go. Let's go. 999 plus 1 is $1,000 million make up a billion. $1,000 million. Now, $1,000 million, give or take a few million, is what it costs Virginia at the Department of Corrections, which is our state prisons, okay? We're spending $1 billion a year in our state prison system. Now, we still got our local jails, okay? $600 million is what we're spending in our local jails right now. Now, we got to pay for a prosecutor to convict you about it, put you in that jail, right? Virginia spends over $500 million a year on these prosecutors and these judges and these court systems. And guess what else? Our state police, guessed it, $800 million a year, $700 million a year. Our insurance company that charges for everything, that all these crash victims are getting sued because of addiction. How many million do you think that is? Personal property damage. People go to the store and steal from Walmart, Home Depot. Addiction costs Virginia taxpayers $5 billion a year. Okay? $5 billion a year. They spend it on the consequence of addiction. But on the recovery side, they're only spending $147 million. Okay, so you got 5,000 million. They spend 5,000 million they spending on the consequence of addiction, but only 147 million on how to help these people in the recovery sector. Remember the leading factor along with recognized the reform of drunkard, the treatment not penal. Well, have we learned anything? I don't think so. Now, and the sad part about that 147 million they're spending, guess what? How much of that goes to the recovery model? Less than 1%. Less than 1%. McShin, we're one of the largest providers of recovery in the metropolitan Richmond area. And if we're lucky, at the end of each year, one community service board will give us a little bonus check. If we're lucky, if they got money left over, we give them an invoice for serving their citizens. We're giving them some badge that we don't have to collect the money for. If they got the money, they write us a small check. But they ain't nowhere near what it could be or should be. And we gotta change that. That's something we can learn here. If we need to learn anything, we need to learn to change that. Now, I really don't like this thing right here. It is tragic and ironic that the major challenges of the recovery model are posed not by the complex needs of individuals and families seeking recovery, but by the system originally set up to help facilitate that recovery. Our biggest problem really ain't, you know how hard it is to deal with addicts? Like Daniel was here the other day, we're trying to get him clean, he steal our equipment, go get drugs. You know, we've had people come in here used that we had to throw out, and they go spray a warrant out against me for assault. I gotta take a day off and go to court, explain to the judge how he's assaulting me, and do that, to be thrown out. You know, I've had people throw up on me, swing at me, pull knives on me, got fired a gun at me on Highland Avenue one night years ago. It is difficult to help you people. We go into jails or prisons and try to carry the message. You know, I've contracted the merchandise hanging around the house. I'm a clean person. I wash my hands. We get what's that blood disease outbreak down here every now and then, that leads to MRSA, staph infections go around sometimes. I mean, we're like Mother Teresa, you know, we're putting ourselves in harm's way every day to try to help you, but our biggest challenge, it really ain't that. It's our systems that's supposed to be helping us, and our biggest challenge to help you people. We're letting it happen. We got to stop that. History has shown when the stigma is high, the resources are low from the community, and when the, like in '82, when I got clean, it was cool to help addicts and alcoholics. A lot of people got help, the stigma was low. Today the stigma is high, that's why they're locking everybody up. You know, you go to the community and say, look man, I need help today. You know, I'm a heroin addict. You go to Clean Life Medical, you know, the government rates $325, you can be detox from heroin. You have a wonderful organization to hang out with free. Or I go to Walmart, steal a couple of CDs, and get a year in jail. $30,000 versus $325. And our policymakers shoot for the $30,000. They think that's good business. They look at us. Some people hate us. We're biting into the criminal justice systems. Now, do you know anybody know anything about government systems? Let me wake some of you up to include those of you who are dozing at this point in time. Most government agencies, their bottom line principle is to grow their agencies. They need to spend all their money this year so they can get more money next year from the tax code. Have you ever heard of a government agency go to the people fund and say, you know what, we were under this year, don't give us as much money next year? Education never does that. Probation, parole, police, state, they don't give back money. They don't say we want to shrink our business. Okay, are you hearing this? Little young ones, the wizards in the group? They're the future customer for life for the criminal justice department. We are reducing recidivism, which means we are cutting back on the amount of people going to jail to prison, and they looking at us like we are destroying America. We are the cause of the need for Obamacare. We are feeding terrorism. So we're cutting back on recidivism. We are very bad. We're going to hell. We're going to burn. This is what's going on out there. We need to change that perspective. Perspective is broken. And I run with people, and I know what I'm talking about. You should see me at the General Assembly when we're down there advocating. Good example. We got a bill passed this year that basically says that the recovery community must have a seat at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services so we can explain to the commissioner how important and effective the recovery system is versus what they're currently doing and not getting the same result. We are delivering more recovery services to more people who need the help, producing more recovery, yet we get no moral support or financial support. So we need to finally get in front of the commissioner and give a black eye. Right. 98 out of 100 delegates, there's 100 delegates in the state of Virginia's House of General Assembly. Okay, 100,000. 98 of them agreed with us and said, man, we support you. 2 people were against us, and both of them delegates worked on community service meetings. We have 40 state senators. 39 out of 40 voted in favor of this bill. These are huge numbers, okay? The 40th didn't show up that day. Okay? So here we are. We go to the governor. We got 98% of your people want this. And he basically vetoes this bill. Because the criminal justice people saying you cannot let recovery go forward in Virginia because it will reduce the size of our criminal justice system. And You cannot let the Department of Behavioral Health relinquish any control of money. Okay? So the only one to fight is the criminal justice. And the people currently getting $147 million. Now, does that not speak volumes? Am I the only one picking up on this? You. Every time you scale a wall with the board, ignoring your recovery, you're volunteering to spend 40 years of your life in the Department of Correction as a customer of these people. This is crazy, man. Get your head right. Wrap your thoughts around what's taking place and what let it happen. We create our own beds, don't we? Right now, it's time for you to create your bed. Let's create one that we can see and feel good about. We were established in 2004 to combat this crap. Our board is made up of real people in the community, not bureaucrats. We know what time of day it is. We think the recovery model, people ask me all the time, well, what point do you introduce recovery to people? Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. In grade school, they should be teaching the recovery model. You know why? This is why. How many of y'all got an addict or an alcoholic in your family? Raise your hand. I think we should be teaching this in school, okay? I mean, I'm not knocking whatever they teach them. I don't have an opinion on that. All I know is that should be in the classroom. When you get your driver's license, the recovery model should be introduced to you. Did you know that 10% of the people that drink alcohol, what happens to them? 10% have major problems because of that. You know what I mean? Y'all ever remember a product called asbestos? Yeah. Do you remember our brakes used to have asbestos in it? And they made you change your brake composite? Now, how much percent of the population do you think was affected by asbestos being in brake pads? Huh? Yeah, but let me break it down to you further. Less than 0.00000%. Right. They can really pin down, okay? But yet, they ban that product, okay? 10% of all people that drink, we know they're going to create part of that $5 billion a year to Virginia taxpayers. We know that. You know, number one abused drug in America is alcohol, legally purchased and consumed alcohol. The number two abuse category is prescription medication, legally purchased and acquired. 15% of all abuse falls into crack, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, crystal meth, spice, slice, check, bug, and snooky. All that falls in the 15% bracket. So, majority of our problems are in legal. I can get off my messages. The recovery model. I was at the jail not long ago, for Monkey Jail. Somehow I was accidentally allowed in the back at the policeman's window. They got the policeman's window at the magistrate, and then they got the people's window. The policeman's window is in the back. And they were released like 10 guys, so they released people on weekends, like they let people in for work release, or they let them in for weekends, but they still released a bunch on Friday too. I'm talking like 10 guys, telling them all about my shin, because that's what I do. I create a message everywhere I go. And one of those guys been coming here ever since. Now, don't it make sense to have a recovery coach hanging out of the jail when they release people talking about how wonderful recovery is? Don't you think it would make sense to have a recovery coach in the emergency room? So when you go in there with these made-up aches and pains, hoping to get a shot of whatever they give you for the diseases you're making up that day. Did you know that Virginia alone reimburses hospitals $2 billion a year? That's part of the $5 billion. Every year we give $2 billion to hospitals. Did you know over 50% of our emergency room business is drug-related, drug and alcohol? Did you know that? Did you also know that over 50% of our admissions to the hospital, you go get a room upstairs, is drug and alcohol related? That $2 billion we're giving up, how much is an emergency room visit? Thousands. Thousands. If you got insurance, it's thousands. If you got money, it's thousands. If the state's paying for it, it's still thousands, okay? If you had a happy recovery coach hanging out at the ER room and an addict comes in there, scamming, trying to get a shot. Don't you think it'd be in our best interest to go with the Happy Recovery Coach over to Clean Life Medical, which is 1 floor up? Call up the doctor, let him write you a prescription for buprenorphine, get 5 days worth of detox medication. You can kick in this environment right here. We can put you in a bed, you know, for 5 days. For less than $1,000, you can give a person medication, a place to stay, food to eat, and people to recover with. And how often do the same addict go back to that ER room? They call it frequent flyer. I mean, we've had people here, they go 37 trips in 1 year to the ER room. Okay, they come here 3 times a year. We do the math, 3 times a year, 37. Mary, stand up. You have relinquished your right to that seat. You're sleeping. You're okay. We love you. You stand up. It's okay. It's a badge of honor to stand up when you're sleeping, okay? It is a badge of rudeness to sleep when you could be embarking on honor in standing. See how we do in recovery?
Hey, John. Can I ask a question real quick about when you were going?
All these people you want to ask questions.
I was wondering something about what you were saying about the money and appealing to the state and asking for the money from the state and the criminal system. In Virginia, is what you're talking about gives, I mean, well, where do they get their money from?
Who they?
The state system in Virginia.
Where do they get it?
Yeah.
Your taxes. My
Yeah,
taxes.
the federal government, correct?
No, some of them come from the federal government.
So, I mean, wouldn't the federal government be in support of not?
The federal government loves the McChin Foundation, who we are. Where are you going?
I was going to the bathroom.
No, you're not. Sit down, man. We all go one time, but we don't go. This is big boy world here, okay?
So I'm just wondering, instead of appealing on a state level, why not appeal on a federal level?
So let me stop here for a minute. We've been sitting for a while, right?
Sorry.
You want to take a 5-minute bathroom break?
Yes, please.
5-minute bathroom.